Ever since the first time I saw a POV of Tron Lightcycle Power Run at Shanghai Disney, I was hooked. As a fan of the 2010 movie, Tron Legacy, a roller coaster theme to this very IP excited me. Well, to my amazement, Disney announced in 2017 that Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom would receive their very own version of this roller coaster. It would take 6 years of production, probably delayed because of the pandemic, before Tron finally opened to the public in 2023. Well, I would have to wait an entire year before getting my first ride, and I must say, the wait was well worth it. I was incredibly giddy getting my first ride on Tron, and I would be lying if I said that I didn't start to well up with emotions as the train rolled out onto the launch. Located inside the Tomorrowland section of the park, just past Space Mountain, Tron Lightcycle Run is housed inside a giant building that features an even more epic entrance as the train launches outside of the structure and through the entry area. The ride has a height of 78 feet or 24 meters. Total track length is 3,169 feet or 966 meters. The maximum speed is 59 miles per hour or 95 kilometers per hour. As for the acceleration of the launch, I wasn't able to find any data, but judging by the POV, it reaches the max speed in about 4 seconds. Presentation. Being located at the flagship Disney property, it is without surprise that presentation would be in high form. From the moment you walk into the section of the park until you are exiting the attraction, the theming is in full swing with so much detail to soak in. A rearranged version of the Tron Legacy soundtrack can be heard blasting from every speaker, getting you pumped up for the ride. The first and only interaction bystanders will have with the coaster is while it's launching out from the event building and flying through the giant turnaround before rising back up inside. The coaster comes even more alive at night as the giant awning of sorts that covers the outside portion of the ride is lit up in various LED strips, either shining bright blue or red colors. Once guests enter the building, they are immediately transformed into the world of Tron. A quick little pre-show takes place that even gives you a little sneak peek of the ride that is about to happen. The trains, which are themed to a light cycle, have their own LED strips that light up while the coaster is in motion. The ride storyline is simple. You are Team Blue facing off against Team Red in a light cycle race. The seating of the trains are a little different, being bikes and all, but I found that the restraints and seating to be pretty comfortable. For those who might need a more accommodating seat, a couple of the trains have the last car replaced with a more traditional seat, which is a pretty nice addition, allowing more guests to be able to experience Tron. Overall, the theming is on point and meets my Disney expectation. Now, being selfish, I kinda wish that they had more going on with a pre-show, but nonetheless, presentation earns a perfect 10 rating. Ride intensity. Okay, not to beat around the bush with this category, Tron is somewhat quasi-family roller coaster. Even Roller Coaster Database labels this attraction as a family coaster. It may be the second fastest roller coaster at Disney, but that doesn't mean it's the most intense. After the launch, which is the most intense part of the ride, the remaining portion of this coaster is basically a series of diving turns and helixes. The launch does have a nice kick to it, but I would say that the rest of the ride is more on the mild side, again, more in par with a Disney attraction. For those who might be nervous to ride, I would say that Rock'n' Roller Coaster is more intense, and the ride is about on par with Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Ride intensity earns a score of 6. Fun factor. Intensity isn't everything, especially when it comes to a more family-friendly attraction. Tron Lightcycle Run has a lot of good things going for it. First would be the theming. The music playing, the lighting, and storyline are fully engaging. The launch provides a nice jolt of adrenaline, and flying high above those waiting to ride outside offers a nice point of interaction. Being placed in a bike position also enhances the whole ride experience. Unlike the family launch coasters from Intamin that are designed to look like a bike or snowmobile, the trains on Tron actually feel like you're sitting on a light cycle racing through the grid. If you are able, I recommend checking out various rows because sure, the front will give you the best view, especially for the launch. The other rows will let you enjoy more of the theming throughout the ride. Sitting closer to the front, I wasn't able to notice the opposing red train until near the end of the ride. My favorite place to ride is the very back of the train. That is where you're going to get the best full experience. Also, the operations for this attraction is pretty impressive. While standing around watching the coaster, I was surprised how quick the next train would be flying down the track behind the last one. Each cycle was somewhere between 30 and 40 seconds, meaning that this ride has a capacity of about 1,600 riders an hour. Fun factor gets a score of 10. Originality. It's quite obvious that Tron Lightcycle Run is not an original coaster, because, well, it's an exact clone of Tron Lightcycle Power Run at Shanghai Disney. With that said, almost everyone watching this video has probably never been to Shanghai, so this version here in the United States would be new to them. Now, as a motorbike-themed roller coaster, this is also not anything groundbreaking or original. Vekoma came out with this concept all the way back in 2004, so yeah, nothing new here. However, originality isn't always based on how original the concept is, but how the ride is presented. We all know that this attraction uses its IP very well, which is what keeps this experience feeling fresh and unique. In some ways, it's like the spiritual successor to Space Mountain if Space Mountain wasn't still operating right next door. Tron takes the dark ride coaster experience to the next level with better effects, sound editing, and storytelling. It almost makes Space Mountain feel obsolete. I know saying Space Mountain should go away is extremely taboo with Disney fanatics, but I think you get my point. Tron, as a whole, isn't an original concept, but more like a movie sequel that brings on higher stakes, bigger budgets with greater effects. Originality earns a near average 6 rating. Ride smoothness. Tron is butter smooth. I have zero complaints when it comes to this category, including the style of the trains. I already talked about the trains, but to quickly reiterate, I was a little concerned before riding that I might be too tall or something, but that wasn't a problem. Plus-size riders are still able to manage a ride, and worst-case scenario, there is an accommodating traditional-style seating found on the back row with select trains. Ride smoothness gets a perfect 10 rating. The final technical score comes to 8.4, which is considered to be a great score. Tron Lightcycle Run will be ranked as one of the best family roller coasters on the planet. It may not be my favorite family coaster, but what you have here is a solid attraction with excellent theming, great atmosphere, a decent launch, and an overall fun ride. So before I talk about my personal score, let me bring up a couple complaints. The biggest one, which is what most people are talking about, is how short the ride is. From the moment you depart the station until you are waiting on the final brake run, it's about 90 seconds. If we just take a look at the prime ride time, which is from launch to brakes, it's about 61 seconds. Now, 60 seconds isn't too bad for your typical coaster, however, when you compare it with other roller coasters at Magic Kingdom or Walt Disney World in large, this is a shorter ride. The ride desperately needs a second launch where the ride currently ends, throwing you into an encore of sorts. Instead, the coaster accomplishes what it set out to do and wraps things up with no fluff. My second and final complaint, this one might seem a little more petty, but as much as they did a great job with the theming and atmosphere, I feel like they could have done more. With a roller coaster that was in production for at least 6 years, this felt like the minimal effort needed to make this a complete package. I know that seems a little confusing, but why not add more to the queue, including a more complete pre-story? As cool as this ride looks outside, especially at night, they could have added more theming to pull you into the world of Tron. Like I said though, this last one is a little petty, maybe I'm just wanting more Tron, and when the park is only allowing virtual queue, which, well, I guess up until now it has been removed, but not when I was there, only one ride per day unless you pay for that Lightning Lane pass. Your time in the world of Tron is limited. So my personal score is going to be a 10, and that's only comparing this with other family coasters or heavily themed roller coasters. I can't really compare this to Fury 325, Velocicoaster, or Iron Gwazi, but it would be underrepresenting this attraction if I ranked it any lower than a 10, and yes, that's even with my complaints. As much as I would love a longer ride and even more theming, what they have here has reached my high mark for a themed family coaster. Until next time, this is Extreme Thrills.